Hey, it's Shawn Patrick Williams, and I'm here for Rethinking Evangelism Part 2, Postmodern Christianity, and how to deal with postmodernism in a global view of Christianity. You know, traveling to 27 different nations, and we're on the very heels of going to 28 and going to Pakistan and Turkey this fall. Over the years, I've had to learn how to deal with the worldview of Christianity. Growing up in America, you know, we're raised in church, and it's a very common ideology that we grow up and learn about Jesus. Everybody can quote John 3:16. It's a common basic function of understanding in our operating system. But a lot of people aren't raised that way. A lot of people in the 1040 window are raised Buddhist or Muslim, and they grow up thinking about Muhammad the same way that we grow up learning about Jesus. A lot of people in Europe, they grow up with a basic understanding of Christianity as a reference that is not the same as ours in America. And it's not the same. The 1040 window, all these Asian nations and North African nations, they have a different base that they are operating, a different philosophy and understanding that they're operating from than we do. And it's extremely important to understand as you're dealing with global ministry, or you're going into you're dealing with people who are coming from different nations and different backgrounds. You have to understand their ideology, and first, before you can minister into grace and you can minister the love of God into their situation, you have to have a familiarity of where they're at. The Apostle Paul said, I will be all things to all people that I might win some. And this was really sparked in my life as I was traveling. When I first started doing street evangelism in Europe, this is something that took place. We spent 10 years evangelizing in Africa, which is in a real struggle. They're battling between the Muslim faith and the Christian faith. David Livingstone and many great missionaries went over 150 years ago in Africa, did a phenomenal job evangelizing that continent. Well, over the past 70 years, the Muslim agenda has been pushed in an astronomical amount. And it's a battle right now. It's been where nations are literally split in two, in the north and the south of Christian and Muslim. And so we have to understand that from that 10 years I've been evangelizing over there in West Africa, mainly some in Kenya, Ghana, Nigeria, the time that I've used in Europe is quick 24, 48, sometimes 72-hour layovers. I do take teams and do street evangelism, and we've been into Germany and France and Amsterdam and different places where we have just hit the streets, and Italy, and literally just went over and started witnessing to people and doing street evangelism. And we've had some fun, just amazing experiences. But I was in Germany and had an opportunity to do some evangelism with some people, and their hearts, it was just like cold. And what I found is the base for a lot of Europeans is when you start to talk about Christianity, their ideology is coming from a time where they learned. See, there's huge churches all over Europe that are sitting empty, and there's just a handful of people that will be going on Sunday mornings. And this term, postmodern Christianity, really was coined from what's going on in Europe right now, because what's happened is a whole generation's moving away from the Christianity or Catholicism and things like that. And when you mention Christianity to a lot of the Gen Xers or millennials or the people of that age frame, their reference is the Crusaders. They think about Christianity as the people who came in and did all the Crusades, the Catholic Church, and just wiped out and killed and did genocide. And that's a point of reference a lot of times to that. And you think about you talk about Christianity into England, and they think about the state church, or they think about the church in a much different way than we do. And a lot of times when people have that base, it's really hard to get past a religious mindset. So you really literally have to think about where they're coming from and where they're at, and minister past that. Love and grace. You have to minister into their situation and try to take them past like a postmodern view, a worldview of Christianity, and the view that the church was based on love and redemption and people's lives being changed. And you've got to bring back the message of the cross into the individual and past the mindset of what church means. And so a lot of times when you're ministering in different nations, you have to really dig, and you have to have a familiarity of what the people, what is common for that nation, what they've dealt with, what is their base. A lot of times they just view America as taking that crusader mentality that we have had, that the church has had, and all these people, that same crusader mentality came to America and then went on a crusade evangelizing the world, since America was for many, many centuries, for about 2 centuries, the largest mission sending nation in the world. Well, the worldview is that that same crusader spirit just came over to America and trying to push an agenda down people's throat. And you have that largely as a worldview of the Western church. And it becomes a distaste in a lot of people's mouths. So you have to go into the grace, love, and redemption, not with an agenda, not to try to see how many people you can get saved. You have to connect with the people. And one of the things that I have come to the conclusion after doing, being in these different nations and ministering and experiencing not just crusade evangelisms or revivals in churches. The church is growing, by the way. The world church is growing phenomenal, but it's not growing on pushing agendas. It's growing on power and love. It's growing because the Spirit of Christ is revealing Himself to people, to Muslims. It's actually growing spontaneously, indigenously, not with missionaries traveling and doing things. That helps, but it really, when we come and help empower local leaders, that's where the true growth of the church comes, because Jesus is empowering the global church, even in the middle of persecution. There's more persecution globally right now than there ever has been. And it's been amazing to see how the church is thriving in the midst of persecution, and the global church is really just it's thriving. We're in the last days, and people are being beheaded and martyred and persecuted and killed globally. In the Western perspective, we haven't seen this a lot in America because yet on this scale, because of the freedom of religion and things. But globally, this is an issue, and it's happening all over the world. It's not uncommon for people to understand that they're going to lose their life or their faith. So we have to understand this and be familiar. The best advice that I ever got, I read one of the best books that I ever got was from reading a book called Just As I Am by Billy Graham. And this man had touched so many denominations and so many people through the basic, simple message of the cross. He didn't get involved in a lot of the arguments, but he reached so many. And this is what he said, Billy Graham said, when I come into a nation, I find the connection between the people, between I and the people that I'm speaking to. I find that connection, that denominator, that common denominator between them and Jesus. And the Apostle Paul also said this, I will be all things to all people that I might win some. He looked at what was going on in the society, and he spoke into that. He spoke the cross and redemption into that. It's just simply telling the people the good news without compromising the message. In postmodern Christianity, we have to understand that God is moving. The church is there is a revival taking place. I'm an optimist. I'm not a pessimist, but I also understand it's coming with great persecution, and that we do have to have a mentality when we're going into whether it be a nation, an organization, or wherever we go evangelism. We have to have the mindset the Apostle Paul said, that I'm going to study where they're coming from, what is their ideology, what is their background, that I will be able to properly interact with them and minister the grace and love of Jesus Christ and how He changed my life into that particular nation. So thank you for your time today. This is the second series in Rethinking Evangelism, and we're We're doing this series to try to empower people in their faith, empower them in their walk with Christ, and to share their testimony, and to be stronger, and to help empower people and disciple people in evangelism and spreading the gospel and the good news. It's still good news. I want to invite you to pray for us. We're Warrior Nations International Ministries. Pray for us. Our base and headquarters in Greenwood, South Carolina. We have affiliates and leaderships all over the world, but we do our bases here in Greenwood. We do ask you to keep us in prayer. You can go to warriornations.org and submit your prayer request every Tuesday night. We have a phenomenal prayer group here at our headquarters that just intercedes and just bombards heaven and bombards the throne room with your prayers. It's a Raise the Wall prayer group, and we do encourage you to send your prayer request in. We do also, most of our support comes from individual partnership. We ask you to prayerfully consider becoming a partner with Warrior Nations International Ministries. That's how we preach, and that's how we're able to share, is through the individual partnerships. So we ask you to prayerfully consider partnering with us. You can give online securely at warriornations.org, or you can send it down. Our address is P.O. Box 2352, Greenwood, South Carolina, and 29646. And all of this is tax deductions. Everything is tax deductible. So we do ask you to prayerfully consider becoming a remnant partner with Warrior Nations International Ministries. Thank you so much for your prayer support. I hope you enjoy these videos, and keep looking, because this series, we do have more in this series coming out.